Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my overview of Ambulance Life, a Paramedic Simulator. So for those not across it, I do overviews on this channel, so where I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game that's a Steam refund window. Steam says that you can make up your mind about whether you want to keep a game or not in that time, and broadly speaking, I would agree as a rule. And say 20 hours in, you're probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short punchy video, broad strokes info, keep it around 10 minutes and then you can make up your mind on your own. So, how to open with this. Riddle me this, Batman. Here's a question that most gamers have asked, at least on some level. Can a game be objectively bad and yet subjectively great? This is a contender. So much of this game is an absolute frigging burning fireball mess, from controls to getting stuck on everything in the environment, all the assets popping in and out, so graphical absolute mess. AI voice acting, which it's not quite Dragon's Dogma hilarious, but it's close. I mean, it clearly wants to be played on thumbsticks, but it won't let me invert my thumbsticks no matter what I do. Just about everyone from my age group uses inverted thumbsticks. It must be a generational thing, but it's a 1 in a million thing where a game doesn't even let you do that. It'll let me remap up or down, but not both. So yeah, it's an absolute mess, every single inch of it. However, I've kind of really delightfully enjoyed what I've played here. I've put in more than 2 hours. I went back in because I couldn't help myself. So if you find yourself here because you're sort of curious about what you're seeing on the screen, which is what hooked me in as well. I like weird, wacky games, and the idea of being a paramedic and sort of trying to triage different medical conditions is, you know, sort of micro subgenre that's rarely explored. I think back to the sort of trauma center games. Is that what they were called? I had one on my Switch that I used to play. Geez, that takes me back. But yeah, look, I like that. I kind of delight in the idea of ER room triage, and this seems like such a clever idea, albeit executed incredibly poorly, but still fun nonetheless. I mean, it's asking $50 Australian straight out of the gate. That's a lot. But at the end of the day, money's different and subjective to everyone in their gaming diets. Maybe even put it on your wish list and get this on a sale in the future. It's sort of a follow-up to Police Simulator Patrol Officers, which they did previously, and I played a little bit of it. Apparently with all the DLC, that's a really quite interesting and kind of robust experience now, and they do these weird horse riding simulators as well. So look, I think this Acer Interactive, I mean, they're under Nacon, but not everyone's perfect, but I kind of like that they have this weird eclectic palette. So yeah, recommendation, it depends on your capacity and tolerance for games that are an absolute mess, but are kind of interesting, unusual, and honestly kind of high budget considering the experimental nature of this. You would expect something like this to be much more micro or indie. So yeah, at its core, you are an ambulance driver. You pick your dude, you've got a sidekick. It is all very gamified, which I love. So much so that like there's districts to be unlocked. You start by you can do specific training scenarios, which will teach you a few things like venous or arterial bleeding or panic attacks, but it doesn't prepare you for everything. There's a huge laundry list of call-outs that you can be called out to, so they'll train you a bit, but a lot of it is trial by fire, which is excellent. And as you sort of level up, the core of the gameplay loop seems to be doing 15-minute shifts, which is probably going to be 2 emergencies in a session. And as you do this work shift, you will get XP points for your performance. You'll finish your shift. It will unlock the district unlocks, which I can see 30 minutes shift is coming up next for me. But, you know, all sorts of different things. Gunshot wounds, homeless man call out, glucose issues. So, like I said, as much as I've said my piece about how much of a mess a lot of the build is, I suppose you could say, as far as like the under the hood, the systems, the concepts, the ideas, and the content, it's actually really cool. So outside of the very specific training missions or whatever, you do your 15-minute shift and it will start with you next to your ambulance. You'll jump in, you'll get a call out, you bring up the map, chuck in a waypoint, off you go, ring the sirens. I quite like this little world that they've built, this little city setting, and you know, it's not like I've scrutinized the car driving mechanics when you're not around, but they definitely react to your siren and sort of part ways for you, and kind of cool. It's unusual. It's not really how you would normally interact with traffic in a city sandbox GTA type driving thing. But it's fun enough to drive around. I did get my ambulance stuck on some corner and inexplicably, but you know, that was kind of par for the course. Did I mention this game's a mess? So you'll go to the call out and it will vary, right? It'll vary from one dude having a bloody panic attack to someone hitting a pothole on his bicycle to bloody some gunman at a club shooting up 3 or 4 people. Like I did unlock a catastrophic scenario, which is like a highway collapse, and that was its whole own different minigame. We won't necessarily get into that, but that's wild and horrific and gory and dead bodies everywhere. So the game's certainly not pulling any punches, but even like I said, on a normal call out, I'm pretty sure I had to triage. It might have been like 9 people at some sort of, you know, gas explosion or whatever. So you really do not know what you're gonna get. And I kind of love that insanity. So you'll rock up and let's say, you know, it's a dude having a panic attack. You essentially can have a quick conversation with them. There's a couple of options, and in the early going, a lot of them aren't that important. Like, do you have any chronic problems? Do you have any medication, that sort of stuff? And at the moment, that hasn't really interfered with what the game's unlocked for me so far. But generally speaking, you just get a sit rep from them. You can interrogate people that are around that might have seen it, and it's all kind of procedural within some sort of script. So you get some wild, weird, I don't know anything about that, by a dude standing there looking at the guy who clearly saw him fall off his bike, but whatever. Again, it kind of adds to the broken charm. And you can use like a right click. Again, I was using mouse because thumbstick problems and all that, so I'm not sure quite what the thumbstick's comparison will be, but you can sort of like zoom in, focus I think they call it. You can look at all their different parts, you get a big stare at their head or stare at that giant bloody bleeding gash wound in their leg, and you'll get all these little pop-ups, little beep, 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 and it all goes into your little ambulance man tablet, and it draws up a really handy schematic, and it starts accumulating all these little bits of evidence that you do upon kind of triage inspection. And there'll be some pull downs where you can diagnose them as according to the evidence all starting to line up. You know, like if they're bleeding out of a hole that's not supposed to be there, you know, you'll get like an arterial bleed pull down. So you sort of have to slap in your diagnosis as you go, and you can change it. And that's one of the things I'm kind of excited about playing more of this, because I will. As much as I've slammed this pretty hard, I really like it. And I'm kind of, you know, I'm looking forward to bloody cardiac arrests and all this sort of stuff. So you basically soft triage your dude, having a look at him, diagnose him. And if you come out to a scene with like 3 different people, you can put triage tags on each of them, because your ambulance is only going to take 1 dude. And that's the sort of limitation of the system. So you go, right, this bloke's having a bit of a sook, this bloke's got a sore chest, you know, this dude's unconscious and bleeding from 3 holes. All right, we'll triage these blokes with yellow tags or green tags, and we'll put this bloke on the stretcher. So once you've done your sort of initial triage, you'll put a dude into your actual ambulance, and then you've got more tools that you can apply to them, like a oxygen level doodaki thing that goes on their finger. You can put a blood pressure thing on their arm, and they essentially have like an RPG character stat sheet, and it will give you readouts of, you know, their blood pressure. Maybe their O2 level's too low, in which case you need to try and, you know, oxygenate. So put a breathing mask on them, or even just calm them down if they're stressing out, or maybe you've got blood flow issues, or their blood pressure's not right, so you can put a little, you know, injecty thingy in their arm. I am not a bloody medical professional, that's for sure. And you can pump them full of saline solution to try and get their blood levels back up to where they should be. But ultimately, you're just trying to stabilize them. You're not the actual ER doctor. You're just patching them together to get them from point A to point B. And you can give them a bit of morphine, that sort of thing, to calm them down, a bit of pain management, bandage up any gaping holes. Some of the minigames are shithouse, to be honest, like the bandage minigame. I feel like maybe it works better on thumbsticks, but it's crap on mouse. And like even just the jittering when you stick a needle in someone's arm, and the physics on all the cables flying everywhere, like it's almost impressive how much of a burning, flaming mess this is. And yet you can hear the grin on my face. I've very much enjoyed my time. So you patch the dude up, put him all together, and then you basically stick on the sirens, drive back, drop him off. It'll give you a rating. It'll basically tell you how good or bad you are. I don't know, maybe it's just generous. I seem to get A's and S's even when I, crash into other cars and forget to put morphine in people. Whatever. it's still early days. But that's the loop, and it's excellent. I really, really love it, and I want to keep playing more of this mess. There seems to be 2 other districts that you can unlock, a whole bunch more conditions, 30-minute shifts, so, you know, just grind away. But yeah, look, maybe you're watching this sometime in the future, because I think it's going to be pretty steep to ask someone to pay full price with this, especially on the back of this. Even though I've kind of sung its praises, I don't really know if the asking price is reasonable, or at least if you do pay it, I really hope you go in with your eyes open. Maybe you watch this a year from now and it's on some sort of Steam sale. I get it, man. This game slaps. I really like it. Guilty pleasure of the year so far. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.